Before I read from the scroll of Pelagus, we'll begin with a hymn, said the priest, nodding at his singers. Sophie's students tilted their faces beneath their hats so the priest wouldn't see his choir had been hijacked. Ordinarily, Camelot's choir sings to exalt a sacred power that unites us all. The priest continued, drafted by a giant lion head casting a glow on his altar. But today, the choir has chosen to sing about our new king instead. Ryan's glare deepened behind him. And in a further departure from the norm, the choir shall be joined by our new princess. I assume, as either a loving tribute to her husband-to-be or a desire to show off her many talents. All at once, the congregation turned towards Sophie, who was now the focus of more than 200 warriors, good and evil both. Sophie could see the gorgeous, dark-skinned king of Pasha, dunes of his chin, bald-headed wife watching her. Seated nearby was the Maharani of Mahadeva, dripping in jewels, with her 3 sons, while in front of them, the Queen of Jolie looked anxious and chastened, far different from the bold woman who had just confronted Ryan. All of their eyes were on Sophie. She had always dreamed of a moment like this, spotlit on a grand stage, an audience of luminaries, all of them knowing her name. Only in her dreams she had rehearsed it. Sophie stared at the sheet music in front of her. O Holy Lion, Buddhadava's hymn of praise. She picked at her first years, Aja, Typhon, Lavalisa, and more, their bodies tense, their pupils dilated. Only Valentina looked calm as she presided over the choir and gazed hard at Sophie, as if to remind her of her clue. Sophie's heart thrummed so hard she could feel it in her throat, not just because she hadn't a clue what would happen on that clue, but because she was about as good at reading music as she was at building cabinets, which is to say, not at all. Valentina raised her arms and brought them down, commencing the organist. Aja started 2 beats early, the rest of the choir 2 beats too late. Glory be, O Holy Lion, glory be, our King. His mercies shall endure, ever faithful, ever sure. Sophie saw Ryan gaping like he had been shot. The dignitaries walked back in their seats. The church reverberated with the most strickling, awful sound imaginable, like a family of cats being dragged up a mountain. The worse they sounded, the more rattled Valentina looked, as if whatever plan was coming might be brought down by the singing before it, especially since Adrian kept shimmering his hips either off the nerves or in an attempt to distract from the horror. Sophie, for her part, tried to dominate the chorus, but Dirty Molly just kept wailing notes louder like a dying mountain goat. Dyphon, meanwhile, was cute as a button, but had a voice like a Sasquatch, and his girlfriend, Lavalisa, unleashed a string of braying yaps like a broken jack in the bus. Worst of all, the stone walls and airways bounced the noise mercilessly, as if it was less a church and more some kind of echo torture chamber. Mortified, Sophie held her sheet music higher over her face, so she couldn't see the crowd and they couldn't see her. But in her new sight-line, she caught Bert and Beckett squatting like watchers through an airway overhead. Sophie's eyes flickered back to Ryan, who hadn't noticed the master spies, because he was already launching out of his room to stop this inferno. Panicked, Sophie wheeled to Valentina, who saw Ryan coming, and accelerated her conducting, waving her arms wildly, which led her charges to motor-mouth through the song like overfed chipmunks, the organist chasing to keep up as the chorus barreled headlong into their crew. Glory be our King, glory be, O farewell lion. Sophie ducked. Quack, 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 flaming green-yellow bombs whipped through the theater like fireworks, sending the crowd diving under their pews. Dyphon and Lavalisa tackled Sophie to the ground as sparks sprayed over them and the audience screams filled the church. Shell-shocked, Sophie covered her ears, waiting for the next blast. Nothing happened. Sophie wasted her head. So did the spectators, their screams dissipating. Then came the smell. Like the fumes of flaming dung heap, a stench so stultifying that the shrieks began again, this time with mortal urgency, as people fled the church in swarms.